All right, let's just jump right into it. Whenever we see those viral clips online, you know the ones, someone freeing a tangled deer or a trapped sea turtle, it's so easy to project our own human feelings onto the whole thing, right? We see a rescue. But in this explainer, we're going to strip away the romance and look strictly at the hard biology and the data to figure out what's actually going on inside the minds of these animals.
It's a totally natural question. Do they actually know we're helping? We all want to believe that when we're cutting that net or freeing a snare, they see us as their saviors. But, well, the science initially tells a completely different, honestly much darker story. One that's literally hardwired into their DNA across millions of years of evolution. The brutal truth? Nope. To a trapped wild animal, an approaching human doesn't look like a friendly neighborhood rescuer. We look like an apex predator arriving for the kill. Their threat response isn't something they learn, it's inherited. And when an animal suddenly loses the ability to move, its body goes into a state of sheer, absolute panic that we don't really have a human equivalent for.
The exact second they realize they're stuck, their heart rate doubles. And then it doubles again. Cortisol absolutely floods their bloodstream, and adrenaline spikes to levels that would literally be lethal if they stayed that high for too long. I mean, they are burning through every single reserve, firing off every emergency system all at once.
To really put that sheer terror into perspective, get this. A study in the European Journal of Wildlife Research found that hooved animals like deer caught in fencing actually have significantly higher stress hormones than animals that have been struck by a car or even shot. Just let that sink in for a second. The mere act of being trapped is physically more stressful to them than a fatal injury.
If you look closely at these animals in that moment, they enter this totally locked-in state. Their pupils are fully dilated. Their muscles aren't just tense, they're rigidly locked, basically braced for the absolute worst. Their breathing gets incredibly shallow and fast. They are completely consumed by the immediate threat of death as you walk toward them. And honestly, that's exactly why their thrashing usually gets so much worse the closer a rescuer gets.
Section 1. The Anomaly. 18 miles off San Francisco. But sometimes something incredible happens that forces wildlife experts to rethink everything we just talked about. Imagine the insane stakes of this scene from December 2005 off the California coast. You've got a 50-ton humpback whale fighting just to keep her blowhole above water. She's weighed down by 12 massive crab traps, hitting 90 pounds each. 4 divers swim up in the freezing water with curved knives, fully aware that just one terrified, reflexive twitch from her tail could kill them instantly. Now, here is where it gets wild. Instead of thrashing or panicking as these apex predators swam up, this massive animal just froze. She held her position at the surface for over an hour, and at several points she literally rotated and extended her fins to give the divers better access to the ropes. Think about that. A 50-ton wild animal consciously chose to hold completely still while strangers with knives worked all over her body. Section 2. Hacking the predator pattern. So how does the science explain this? Well, researchers think this comes down to a biological glitch in how an animal's brain categorizes danger in a split second. See, an animal's brain is fine-tuned over millions of years to detect the specific movements of a predator. Fast, aggressive, closing the distance in a straight line. But a human rescuer acts totally opposite to that data. We move slowly, with no sudden gestures, and we usually touch the trap or the ropes instead of the animal itself. We don't make any sounds that match anything in their evolutionary threat catalog. Because there's no recognized threat pattern for a slow-moving human touching a trap, the brain's alarm system scans its entire library of dangers and comes back totally empty. There's no recognized pattern to respond to, so the panic just stalls out. The crisis response hits a wall, and the animal simply watches and waits. Section 3. The Yellowstone Wolf Encounter. To test this biological theory, we can look at a terrifying encounter with a highly aggressive predator, a trapped wolf in Yellowstone. This perfectly shows how humans can intentionally trigger this biological glitch. Initially, the wolf lunged and snapped at every approach, which is exactly what biology predicts. But then, the researcher completely stopped moving and held sustained, non-aggressive eye contact. A predator about to kill calculates and tracks the body. It doesn't just hold steady eye contact without moving. By doing this, the researcher completely bypassed the wolf's threat template, and the lunging animal just sat down, watched their hands work the trap, and waited. Field researchers actually call this a suspension of threat response. It's really important to note their alarm system doesn't miraculously turn off, and they don't suddenly understand you're a friend. Instead, the alarm just loses its anchor point because the predator attack it expects never arrives. The crisis response literally has nothing to lock onto.
Section 4. The biology of empathy. Okay, so the stalled threat response explains the rescue itself, but the much harder, more emotional question is what happens biologically right after the trap is finally opened and the threat is gone. Going back to San Francisco, when the last rope was cut, that humpback didn't just bolt. She swam in wide circles around the divers, surfaced next to each one individually, and nudged them with the tip of her jaw. One of the divers, James Mosquito, described the interaction as feeling like gratitude. Now, scientists are normally super careful with that word, but the biology might actually back him up. It turns out humpback whales possess what are called spindle neurons. These are highly specialized brain cells linked directly to empathy, deep emotion, and rapid social decision-making. For the longest time, we thought these cells were exclusive to primates, like humans and great apes, but whales have them too, meaning they have the exact neurological hardware needed to process a complex emotion like gratitude. We see this deep emotional processing in elephants too. When rescuers in Kenya pull a juvenile elephant out of a mud pit, the elephant often makes physical contact with the humans before leaving. And when they touch a human arm with their trunk, they're using an organ packed with 40,000 individual muscles and a nerve density similar to human fingertips. It's not a quick, reflexive flinch. It is a slow, deliberate sensory examination.
And the most telling evidence of all, these rescued elephants will often linger close to the humans who freed them for minutes after being released. They aren't running away. They aren't grazing. They're just present. And this happens long after any biological survival reason to stay has completely vanished. The cognitive equipment to distinguish between a human who causes harm and one who ends it, it's absolutely there.
Section 5. The unanswered question. As technology like neuroimaging and long-term behavioral tracking improves, we're definitely going to get better data on all of this. But for now, the internal reality of these encounters remains a profound mystery. Ultimately, we have to ask ourselves the hardest question of all. When that wolf stood at the tree line watching its rescuers, or when that whale nudged those divers in the freezing water, did it mean something to them? Do these animals truly understand our help? Or are we just finding meaning in these moments because we're animals too, running our own pattern recognition software, desperately searching for our own human empathy reflected back at us in a stalled biological